What's going on, everyone? Welcome to this Behind the Track. In this video, we're going to be checking out the second drop of Hush. Alright, that's a recently released track of mine. I'm going to be going from top to bottom, showing you guys all the elements that are making it up. And if you like videos like this, if you want to see a breakdown of the first drop and the intro breakdown, all the musical instrumentation going on, you can do so at patreon.com/heartacademy. Let's go ahead and grab a refresher here.
Gangsta in his grace, you better hush.
So that is the second drop of Hush. So let's start from the top here. The drums. So when I do these breakdowns, I like to go through the foundational elements, i.e. your kick drum and your snare. Let's check out some of the processing that's going on with the kick drum, which the kick drum is a major part to the reason that this drop smacks the way it does. That's what it sounds like. What a phenomenal kick. This is actually a kick drum from my Divine Dynasties pack that dropped. And you can get that on the Patreon shop over at patreon.com/heartacademy. But I did a couple of things to this kick to beef it up even more. Okay, let's go ahead and just take everything off. All the processing that I did off of the track, which is fairly simple. This is the kick straight up. It's still an extremely awesome kick. So what I did, first thing I did was bring a utility in that just controls the volume. I brought up the volume by 1 dB. All right, now the next thing that I did was I brought in an EQ. I gave it a slight bump around 34 hertz, and I brick walled it in a low cut fashion at 27 hertz. And now we got a kick drum like this. Now it's a little bit more beefy, right? Without that EQ, and then with that EQ, it's a little bit more bumpy. You know what I mean? Now, the last thing that I did was I gave it 2 dB of makeup gain with a glue compressor with soft clipping on, and our final result is it's a crazy kick. It's nice. It's got this low end to it that's really quick and short, but thumping. You know what I mean? And then after that, we've got 2 snares playing. First one, second one. And then together, right? So this one kind of plays that tonality over the top of the mix, so you can hear that cut through the mix, right? And then I'm fading into it because I didn't want any of that beginning transient, so I cut that out a little bit so it has a little bit more attack, right? And then I've got the main snare, which is cutting through the mix and getting above everything in the mix to set that foundational element on the halftime, right? It's just a regular old snare. And I don't really do anything except a little bit of EQ to shape it up. Same thing with this one. I did add some little plate, or actually super plate from Sound Toys, which is a plugin from Sound Toys. Really, really good. Without super plate, it sounds like this. And then with super plate, it sounds like this. It kind of fades into the background, gives it a little bit more depth, right? So that's pretty much the drums. Everything else, you've got your hi-hats. Nothing crazy about that. And all of these sounds here in my drum rack, as you can see, the DD whatever, these are Divine drums. All right, this is all from the Divine drums pack, right? Hats. Feel free to sample these, by the way, if you want. And then, as far as the drums are written in, I'm using an Ableton Live drum rack, right? I just drop my samples into each of these squares here. I can play them on my push, or I can program them in a MIDI channel like so. Really, really simple, and you can do also your separate processing on every single individual pad, which is a game changer rather than having 100 different separate audio channels inside of your, the way you're organizing your set. It's way better to just do it in a drum rack, in my opinion. So that's the drum section, okay? Now moving on to design 1. You'll notice in the drop here, you have this cinematic orchestral section going on, playing in tandem with the bass music aspect of it, right? So now let's hop into design 1, which sheds light on some of that cinematicness. Oh, that's nice. Very, very nice. I love this sort of flute here. This is from the Sign Player. It's Balinese Suling in the key of D. This is the sign player from Orchestral Tools. Top-notch sounds. Get on it. That's orchestraltools.com. So this is just this flute here. All I did to it was add a little bit of EQ to give it a nice high shelf. Sidechain compression is going on. The way I sidechain is everything usually 99% of the time is being sidechained to my kick drum. Everything in the mix is being sidechained to the kick drum for all intents and practical purposes, okay? And then after that, I believe I just have some Swarm reverb, which is actually a reverb from Minimal Audio that I've been playing around with for a while. I really like it for specific things, and I liked it on this. Without the Swarm reverb, very in your face. And now this makes it dreamy and actually helps it stick out in the mix. It's very subtle though, but it kind of adds this flatbed to it. It's really, really nice. So yeah, that's Minimal Audio Swarm reverb. Really, really good reverb for very specific things. I wouldn't use it as an all-around reverb at all, but very specifically, yes. And now we've got this brass that comes in, this is from the sign player again as well, and this is a combination of Metropolis Arc 1, and yeah, I think this is all from Metropolis Arc 1. You know, we've got a combination of some low strings, some horns, some different kind of horns, and some trombones, and it created this really nice in-your-face brass. And I got some EQ on here, so let's take the EQ off. A lot of that low end and lower mids comes back in. It gets a lot darker. Now, what I did to it, bought some detail in with this nice high shelf here, and then low-cut it so it's not playing anything 102 hertz. Well, it's trying not to. Really cleans it up, and then I've got my sidechain compression at a minus 21 dB threshold. Okay, and that's pretty much the cinematic aspect of this, right? Go ahead and play it with the drums so it makes sense in context. And it was important that I took the low end out of that brass because, as you're going to see in the drop one section, all the sub is in there, right? You got to pay attention to where your low end is coming from, rather. And ask yourself the question of, does this element need low end or does it not need low end? If it does, how much? If it doesn't, how much of it does it not need? All right, it's very important so you can stop cluttering up your mix and muddying it up. All right, be very concise with your selections and your decision making within your track. Okay, so now let's go ahead and solo out drops one section here. Oh, that's disgusting. That's disgusting. Oh, that's nasty. Now, on the overall, group section of it, you know, I like to have an overall master utility for the group section, master EQ for the group section, tuner, and then everything after the tuner is just creative direction. This is just a little bit of spice. For different sections, I might need... You see how that auto filter just comes in? That just plays that nice little flourish at the end of that bar section. So it brings you back to the start of this basically loop of the drop, you know what I mean? So that's all creative direction, and then using the ballad reverb to get out of the drop. Right there, you see that? I'm getting out of the drop with that. And then slowly bringing that dry wet back down. So that's all just creative spice. But now the actual designs themselves here, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sounds, okay, for the most part here. And, you know, your beginning sounds here, go ahead and solo each one of them here. Oh. And a lot of these sounds are going to be from my Pressure for Vital pack, and I've retrofitted them for this track here, okay? So that's the Pressure for Vital pack. You can also grab that at patreon.com/hardacademy. Now, the next sound here is... super low-cutted. Now, let's play both of these sounds together. But it's still not quite there. Now, that's where this third patch comes in. It sounds like this alone. Which is playing a lot of the mids, okay? It's got a lot of the body of the sound. Now, this one, you bring in the detail, you bring in the subs of it, and then you bring in the body, and then you've got this three-piece combo here. Very, very nice. But let's open up the patches, okay? And let's check out the design philosophy of this track. Okay, now aside, before we open up this first patch, which is playing the sub of everything and a little bit of this punchy harmonics on the articulation, right? Whenever that note starts articulating, bum bum bum, dun 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 dun, it's got that tweak to it. And I'll tell you where that's coming from, okay? We've got a high shelf here before we hop into the patch, though, to backtrack a little bit. High shelf to breathe some detail into the patch here, and then a nice bump at 33 hertz. That's where that main sub frequency is coming from. Okay? So, we open up Vital. And here's what we have. All right, so this is Vital. This is the netter beta sound from the Pressure for Vital pack. So, and I actually didn't change much about this. And I'll tell you right now, where the tweaking sound is coming from is this formant. I'm pretty sure it's this formant filter. So let's turn the formant filter off. Yeah, that formant filter is creating that tweak. Yeah, and it's that peak. So that's what's going on there. So if you want to know how to make these little tweaky sounds, you know this filter stuff. Now, check it out, okay? I've got an LFO1 that's really doing a lot of the work here. LFO1 is doing a basic sustain ramp, right? And what does that mean? That's just like when I press the button, it sustains. Dun! So this helps me modulate into the wavetail positions or the spectrum morphing or wave morphing positions, as I'll show you. LFO1 is modulating the wavetail position of oscillator 1, the wavetail position of oscillator 3, and right here on the position of the dial for the harmonic stretch, which is oscillator 1's spectral morphing section, okay? And what do I mean by modulating into? Well, take a look. Whenever the sound plays, we'll go ahead and just noodle with it. See, it's a sustain. Right? Now, you'll notice I'm going into that position, and I wish this would be in 3D. Now, this is the perfect example right here. Look at the 3D visualization of oscillator 1. That's what's happening. This movement represents this sustain ramp of LFO1. We're starting here, and we're ending here, okay? That's modulating into that position, so it's not stagnant. It doesn't sound too computerized. It doesn't sound too bland and like on the grid. It's a little bit, it's got this natural flow to it, a natural oomph to it. It's nice. Now, same thing with oscillator 3. We're starting here and we're ending here. And the harmonic series has a lot to do with that tweak as well. Let's turn oscillator 3 off. That tweak is completely gone. Turn it on. It's that harmonic tweak, baby. Now, let's talk about the design philosophy, okay? Across all of these sounds, what's making them loud? What's giving them most of their heft? Let's go to the effects section, okay? Because this is the stuff that you need to know. Let's turn off the distortion. Let's turn off the compressor. Take a listen to the sound. Now, we've still got a little bit of that tweak from the filter. Turn the filter off. That's the sound. Turn the filter back on. That tweak is coming back a little bit. Let's turn on the distortion. A little bit grungier, a little bit heftier. Turn on the compressor. And now we have that damn sound, right? Little things can make huge changes when it comes to this sound design. Very, very subtle. Okay? How did I get this mainly loud? Well, two things. Well, three things. Compressor, attack is up, and our multi-band dial on the low band is up. Okay? What do I mean by that? Let's go ahead and bring our attack down. Let's just undo everything we did. 64% was where I was at. Let's turn the attack down, and let's turn this low band dial back to where it was originally. Now we have this. Very weird, is it not? Now watch what happens. And I'm not the guy that's going to sit here and tell you a compressor is blah, 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 textbook example, definitions. No, that's not me. I'm the guy that says, well, hey, I don't know shit about this, but I know if you move that knob up there, it's going to do this. That's who I am. Practical knowledge. That's the best sort of learning that you can do. Have practical application that you can apply, okay? So check it out. If you move that attack knob right there, if you just move that up, the sound gets instantly louder. Let's go ahead and try that. Oh, it's a little bit more intense, right? It gets a little bit more intense. Oh, and you see there's no low end in that. Where's the low end? So if you move that that you see these 3 bands here. Don't focus on the bottom ones, focus on the top ones. And if you move the one that's all the way on the left, if you just start sliding it up, you're gonna get a lot of low end. All right, go ahead and try that now. Oh, nice. And there's your practical knowledge. Now, when it comes to your distortion, let's go ahead and turn our distortion on. It's such a disgusting sound. It really feels it out. This is just soft clipping with a little bit of drive. All right, 6 dB of drive. Now, take note of where the distortion is in the comparison to this chain, because it matters. It's before the compressor. I'm taking a long time on all these sounds, but just bear with me here. The distortion is before the compressor. Why? Because look at how it sounds if we put it after it. It sounds like a distorted mess, like it's way too saturated. Before it, very detailed and articulate. After it, muffled and chubby. Before, nice and detailed. So you got to play around with your positioning of your different things. I can't tell you how it's going to turn out. You just got to move it yourself and then hear like, oh, that sounds better than this, so I'm going to stick with that. And in this case, having the distortion before the compressor on this particular patch sounds better. On most patches, it sounds better unless you're designing from the beginning for it to be in a certain place where you can make up for what it's going to do to the sound with each step deliberately, right? But in this case, this is how it worked out. And that's pretty much the sound. Now, I brought in even more detail with this EQ. Now, I know I'm kind of diving a little bit deep into the what I'm doing here on this patch, and it might be boring, but these little things make a huge difference, because most of this sound's heaviness and grunginess came from these 2 small things that I did, and that can really fly over people's heads, but it's so simple. So I just want you to just pay attention for a second, okay? This distortion and compressor is the sauce here in Vital, all right? Now, your spectromorphing and your random amplitudes, this is all creative direction, right? So this is at 36.49. Don't let me forget that. 36.49. Look what happens when I change this. Changing those harmonics. Oh, that's disgusting. That's a good sound. I'm gonna go ahead and save that because that's 6. I mean that's I'm remembering 36.49. Bear with me. Netter better 2. Yeah. So now we change it back to 36.49. There it is. And that's the sound I was going for, that really just deep, almost UK bass line sort of thing. I don't know, it's just this nasty, right? So that's what the harmonic stretch does. I'm just moving the dial into position that sounds dope for what I'm going for, right? As you saw, I moved it into that other position and it was dope. That's literally how I find these sounds. I don't know what the fuck a harmonic stretch is. I just know if I move that dial, it's going to do this thing that I like or that I don't like. You know what I mean? Same thing with random amplitudes. You know, this is at 9233. Oh, that's a whole other song right there. 92. Oh, I got to save all these things. That's net a better 3. And this is how you find sounds, man. You got all these different sounds available to you in the same patch. Just a little bit of tweaking. This was at 92. Oh. But I wanted that real close and intimate sound. That, like, the final product here, what I ended up going with for this patch was that real close and intimate sound. But I've got all these. I've got 2 other variants now. So that was the long and dirty of this patch here. Now, moving into the next sound here, because we're going to wrap this up. This is obviously low-cutted because it just needed to play a little bit of upper frequency harmonics and detail. It's not playing anything in under 190 hertz, but if we open up the philosophy here, or of this, the patch here in Vitals, my Ricky Blobby from the Pressure for Vital retrofitted for this track. The design philosophy is the same here. The compressors before well, it's almost the same because I just contradict myself here. The compressor is before the distortion here, and why? It just probably sounded better that way, right? But the design philosophy is the same in the fact that the attack is the 2-piece combo for this compressor. Throw the attack up, throw this multi-band dial up. Boom, done. Distortion, a little bit of soft clipping, that's it. Done. Move to the next patch. It's the same thing. And the cool thing is, like, they're playing down the middle here. Small details, right? I don't want this to be like a forever long video. How long is this video already? 22 minutes? Good grief. I don't want this to be a forever video, but you notice when we get to the second 4 bars of this drop here, I pan this patch 16 to the right, and I pan this previous patch 19 to the left to create space. Check it. That's disgusting, right? Now, the last thing that I want to talk about in this track here, well, are 2 things. I want to talk about mono and stereo separation within your track. I'm so long-winded, I can't make a short video to save my life, because it's going to be a disservice if I just gloss over things that can really be a foundational moment for people listening and trying to follow along here. So forgive the long-windedness, but you know, a lot of people, they'll do like an 8-minute thing and you might not learn anything, you know. But what's the point of doing this if you're not going to learn anything? So I'm going to do my best here to give you something that has substance for you. I want to talk about 2 more things. I want to talk about the screeches, and I want to talk about stereo and mono separation within the sounds of your drops specifically, okay? We're going to start with that topic first, all right? So basically, what's playing in mono in your drop, what's playing in stereo? If all of these basses, if they're all going to play in stereo and have like detune, you're going to get this fucking terrible sound. So the first thing let's do is let's play this entire thing in mono. And action. It sounds phenomenal in mono. Wow. Now, obviously, your orchestral sounds, you know, with the way they're recorded, it's not going to be the most perfect thing, but they're still there. They're not getting any any like phasery, chorusy sort of sound. And those orchestral, the cinematic sounds, like the flute and that brass, is just fucking jammed into the middle of this mix in mono, and that's fine. They're still barely there, and that's fine. Now we bring it back. Really good in mono, really good in stereo. But that is because of very deliberate placement in the mix, okay? The way that I do in Vital to say what's going to be in mono and what's going to be in stereo comes down to how many voices each of the oscillators have. If something inside of here has all one voice, that means basically, for all intents and purposes, aside from the reverb that's playing here, this whole sound is in mono, okay? Demonstration. Let's add 2 voices of unison to the oscillator 1. It's very subtle. You're probably going to need headphones. There's a slight detune effect that creates a slight subtlety in the stereo field, okay? Let's add 2 voices of unison to oscillator 3. Very apparent. Why did I not put this? It sounds really nice, but why did I not put this 2 voices of unison in the final product? Because this tweak, ding, 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 that tweak and that tweaky articulation is a foundational element to the way this whole bass line articulates. I need it to play down the middle. I don't want it to be affected by anything. Whether you got, you know, people like me walking down the street with one earbud in, you know, I usually wear my right earbud and call it a day. You might miss this. This might be in the left side or completely phased out, playing with in relation with everything else. If I have a bunch of detune and stereo separation on this foundational part of the sound, I want it down the middle, period, okay? So, 1 voice of unison. Right down the middle. Sounds massive, okay? So, and this is also playing the sub. So, from, you know, I don't want any stereo thing on my sub in this case. You know what I mean? So, this patch is playing down the middle for all intents and purposes. Move on to the next sound. This one, I believe, is playing in mono as well. Let's look at the voicing section. 1 voice, 1 voice, 1 voice. For all intents and purposes, this sound is playing in mono. So where does my stereo separation come in? Let's play both of these sounds together. Right? So now the stereo separation comes in on patch 3. Very easy to tell this has some stereo separation. All right? Check it out. 2 voices of unison from oscillator 3. Let's turn that off. Play it in mono. Play it back in stereo. And I know I call it stereo. It's really just detune with very tight it's just very tight detune with another voice of unison. Okay, that's all it is. It's basically 2 patches playing, the same patch playing twice. slightly detuned. That's what that means, okay? Now, let's go ahead and, now you heard that, go ahead and play this patch in mono now. So now all these sounds are in mono. It still sounds good, but it's very, very subtle what you're listening for. Now that third patch is in stereo again. It's just very, very slight details that the modern listener is probably not going to hear, because you could put all these in mono and they still sound good. That's also a plus, you know? But those are things that you want to think about, because if they were all, let's go ahead and just put a voice of unison on everything randomly, and I'm just going to show you, it's not going to sound the same, okay? Now with the everything is detuned and voices of unison. It just doesn't sound right. It sounds too wide. It doesn't sound anchored enough. Okay, that's the problem. It doesn't really matter, because I'm just gonna close the project and not save it and just revert back to what I had before. So I'm not gonna change that back. Last thing we'll talk about are the screeches, and this is real quick. This is a 3-piece combo. If you've been around, you know about it. Pork and beans with 2 turtle screeches. 2 screeches are panned to the right and to the left. 38 to the right, 38 to the left in this case, and then 1 screech is playing down the middle. Then I have my tail screech here, which is the harvester screech, which basically plays that. Don't ask me about Sylenth 1 and what all this bullshit means. You can take a screenshot and look at that. Yeah, Sylenth 1, mostly when you're working with your screeches, it's oscillator 1A, 2A, and then you're also your part B. Detune the shit out of these things, put the width up, and now the next thing you're going to want to do is your amp envelope A and your mod envelopes to modify your pitch. I'm going fast as shit, but there's no way to dumb splain Sylenth 1. Yeah. Most of the stuff is coming from your pitch A-B modulation and your cutoff modulation. You'll notice, if I go ahead and play this, this is how I shape the screech. Turn this decay or ADSR thing. See that? Changes things. Attack. See, that's how you shape this thing. You get all kinds of different articulations from the screech by messing around with these mod envelopes and then even your main amp envelope, okay? So yeah, that's like a dumb, I don't even know, that's just some kind of weird explanation of Sylenth and screeches. We can dive into that another time, alright? But yeah, this isn't the video for that. This is just basically an overview, a very long overview. So yeah, and then you've got your vocals. That's me, obviously, well, or not obviously. And the way I do vocals, that's just me going hush. And then this one, I do a lot of my main vocals, right, in a very specific way. I take 3 separate takes. I pan 2 of the takes to the right and to the left, not hard, moderately though, 35 to the right, 35 to the left, and play 1 take down the middle. They are not the same take. I'm doing this take 3 separate times.
I put a gangster in his grave, so you better. I put a gangster in his grave, so you better. I put a gangster in his grave, so you better.
Obviously different, but when you play them all together, when you're trying your hardest to do it the same tempo and rhythm,
I put a gangster in his grave, so you better.
You get this natural, nice, detuned stereo kind of sound that still sounds tight, and you play it in mono, still sounds good, because I put
a gangster in his grave, so you better.
It's a little easier to tell that there's a bunch of voices going on, but this is why you turn your side ones down, you turn your main one up in volume, and it masks that entirely.
I put a gangster in his grave, so you better.
Yeah, and then I've got Fury. Heaviosity Fury is one of my favorite VST plugins right now for distortion. Look that up, Heaviosity. Hell yeah, love that thing. That's what's giving me this edgy tone.
I put a gangster in his grave. I put a gangster in his grave, so you better.
With it on.
I put a gangster in his grave, so you better.
And then on the vocals, it gets crazy. A lot of subtractive EQ to take out. I know I could use soothe or some shit, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it, alright? I take out all these harsh frequencies.
I put a gangster in his...
Took that out.
I put a gangster...
Took that out. It's awful.
I put a...
Took that out. It's awful, okay? And then I've got a little bit of OTT, only 12%. And then Sibilance, which is from Waves Audio.
I put a gangster in his grave, so you better...
This is like a de-esser. It's just a super advanced de-esser that's really fucking good, alright? I can't explain this shit to you. I just know it works. Alright? And that's it. I'm done. I'm done talking about this. If you want to know more that goes even more in depth, even more talking, even more rabbit holey, and you want to know about the concepts of each of these tracks that I'm releasing, as far as conceptual deep dives, inspirations, the way I'm approaching these things, as well as the breakdowns of the intros and the musical sections and instrument selections and sound design philosophies amongst each of these tracks, you can do so at patreon.com/heartacademy. All right. If you just want the conceptual deep dives, you can do that on, the student of the game tier. It's only $10, and it's got a lot of great perks, including early access to the releases that I put out. So, and the conceptual deep dives. And then at $20, you get feedback on your tracks every month, and you get these breakdowns, okay, of all the drops. All right. So, hop in there, and I'll see you there. And if not, I hope you learned something from this video, because that's what this is all about. Anyway, that's it for me. See you guys later.